thinking that I'm in. We're all down and sit alone, drowning in my sin. Get right or get left, what will it be? Time is running out, the blood is flowing down the streets. People need to know we're living in a war zone. Hit the streets with the truth, tell them that it's on.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Loot Bros podcast. I'm your host, Resident Daryl, and this is the official rule set for the Backlog Beatdown 4 Back for Blood. So this is the fourth year that we've done the Backlog Beatdown, and this year is going to be better than ever. So we're doing a whole episode, a whole separate recap specifically about the Backlog Beatdown 3, how it went, and the stats and all the breakdowns. All that stuff's coming up. So this right here is specifically for the launching of the Backlog Beatdown 4 and the rules and the new bonuses that we've added. So before we get started, I want to give a toast. Shout out to our Patreon producers. Give a shout out to Johnny, MZ, JT, Sadik, and Redbeard Rick. Thank you guys so much for your support. Guys, go check out Redbeard Rick's Retro Room. Send some love to him. And we're going to get into this. So basically, the Backlog Beatdown 4, Back for Blood, will be an amalgamation of all the Backlog Beatdowns to date. So all of the Backlog Beatdown 3 rules still apply, okay? We're going to do a quick recap on what those rules were. So, no list. There is no call your shot list. That one seemed to be the least enjoyable Backlog Beatdown that we've done, so no list. So 2 points for games that have released before 2023. The contest is live right now. Everything that you've done starting January 1st, 2023 counts. So if you've got a screenshot, if you beat a game, whatever, send it in. All right. We still have the same crew, the same judges, the commissioner, JT, the Seagal himself. He will be vetting your games, making sure everything is on the up and up. All right. The spreadsheet will go live here in the next week when the episode comes out with the Backlog Beatdown 3 recap, and you guys will be able to see your stats. You'll be able to see your points. We'll pin that in a brand new group for the Backlog Beatdown 4, and we'll pin it in the Loot Bros podcast group. We'll even send it over to the Trophy Skanks and see if they want to be a part of it, okay? So, no list. 2 points for all games that came out before 2023. Those technically count as backlog games, all right? We want you guys to play the new stuff. This is going to be the year of survival horror, so you're going to get 1 point for all games in 2023, just like we did last year. There is still a 5-hour minimum for the +1 or 100% for the platinums, okay? So if you guys beat your game, let's say you beat My Name is Mayo 3, the game has to be at least an hour long to count for the points. All right, My Name is Mayo 3, I believe, falls really close to that 1 hour mark, but My Name is Mayo 3 is not a 5-hour long platinum, therefore it is not eligible for that bonus point. We can't have you guys going in there and cheesing stuff. And I know a couple of you found the loopholes, and some of you high point, guys were able to manipulate it, but that's okay because we got something for you this year, okay? So the game must be longer than 1 hour to count, and it must be a 5-hour minimum for that extra point to count on the platinum. Now, we use a handful of websites to garner this information. Okay, mycompletionist.me is one of them. We'll use PSN profiles. We'll use all of the various trophy and achievement tracking sites to make sure that you guys are staying honest, because we know how much y'all lie to us. You'll cheat, you'll steal. We got a bunch of Eddie Guerreros up in this group, always trying to get around on everybody. But we have the commissioner. He is recharged. He is angry. He is out for blood, and he is ready to make sure you don't get any points that you didn't actually earn. I want to give a special shout out and a special slurp to JT for all his hard work this past year. There were several months there where JT, not only did he vet your games, but he actually listed the majority of the games over the course of the year. I would dare to say JT was phenomenal help. We had a lot of life stuff and life change going on with the podcast crew. And JT was the backbone. He was the glue that held it all together. So we cannot express our appreciation enough for JT and all the back end work he did for this. And he is definitely the GOAT for sure. So this year, Backlog Beatdown 4, Back for Blood, we have added some bonuses. Okay, we added some bonuses, but I'm not going to talk about the bonuses just yet. On to the rest of the rules. No region stacking. So we're not doing the PlayStation 4 the North American version of My Name is Mayo, then the European version of My Name is Mayo, then the Japanese version of My Name is Mayo. Nope, that still does not fly. But you can do the console stacking. If there's a PS4 version of Siphon Filter and a PS5 version of Siphon Filter, guess what you get? You get points for both if, in fact, you decide to go that route and play that janky game. All right? Not just saying Siphon Filter, you're using it as an example. All right, so console stacking is allowed. PS4, PS5, PS3, PSP, Vita, PS4, however you want to look at it. And storefront stacking is allowed for all you Microsoft nerds playing your Windows version of Minecraft and your iPhone version of Minecraft and your Xbox version of Minecraft, okay? No auto plats count from console stacking. So if we go on there and we see your trophy stamps or minutes, it's like, oh, it took you 24 hours to beat this game and then 24 seconds to get all the trophies in the PS5 version. We're not allowing console stacking. We do check. So no console stacking. And just like last year, you're allowed to replay games that you've already beaten before. Now, I know there is a point of contention on this. All right. But this is where ultimately I come in with the hammer. And I don't typically lean into this. I really, I created this concept, this Backlog Beatdown contest, community event. And then I leaned into the podcast host. We brought in the commissioner, JT, the GOAT. And I'm like, hey, what do you guys think? Let's make this fun for everybody. Every single year, we get a laundry list of crying and complaining and random pushback from things that people think are not fair or they don't think that works because it may or may not give them an advantage or a disadvantage. And I get it. I understand. We all are competitive. We all want to win. All right. But one of the things that typically I'll just kind of like, oh yeah, whatever you guys decide. What does the group want to do? What do you guys think is best, to make it fun for everybody? One thing I will lean in and say is non-negotiable is playing games that you've beaten before. We've got retro collectors in the group. We've got retro hunters. We've got people who like playing retro games. We got Red Beard Rick in his retro room. He's like, it's a whole YouTube thing. We can't limit what we do and do not consider to be backlog. All right, if you guys want to go back and revisit an old game, maybe you want to play the Super Nintendo version, maybe you never finished the Sega version, maybe PS1, whatever. You know what I'm saying? Guys, play your games. Enjoy your games. All right, the only way it doesn't count is if you've already done it this year. Okay, so let's say December 31st, you got the Platinum in Gotham Knights. And in January, you're like, man, I want to do that again. I want to go back through Gotham Knights again. Well, you've already got the Platinum, so your +1 is not eligible unless you play it on a different console or if you started a brand new profile. Okay. But I'm not going to say, well, you beat it in December, you can't beat it in January. Those are two different events, two different contests. And if you want to spend that 20, 30, 40 hours to go back through your game again because that's what you think is fun, by all means, brother, go have some fun. And that's what this is about. Okay, so can you play the games that you've already beaten? Absolutely. Can you play games you've already platinum 100%? Absolutely. Only problem is if your trophy stamp from your 100% completion says 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020, you're just not getting that point. I don't care if you went through and you did every single objective to get the 100% all over again. If your timestamp says something different, we're honoring the timestamp. And it's like, just play it on a different system, play a different version of it. You know what I'm saying? That is allowable in the contest. We also got to keep in mind, guys, as you're playing and as you're participating in this contest, it is supposed to be fun. Sure, it's supposed to encourage us to bust through our backlog. It is a backlog beatdown. And it's supposed to encourage us to play games and finish games and move on to the next game, not get stuck in a rut because we're actively competing on who can complete the most over the year. But we're supposed to be having fun. It's all about having fun. This is a community event. This is not a contest that's going to change your life. All right. This is just about having fun. So try not to, and we use tricky as an example. Try not to tricky things up, you know what I'm saying, and make things more difficult than they have to be. Just play your games, enjoy your games, have a good time, guys. All right. Now, for this year, we're going to do a couple things that are different. All right. We're adding bonuses. What makes this year different than last year is that the podcast crew and the commissioner have gotten together and we have compiled a list of games. Now, not every single person that participates on the podcast compiled or participated in the list. It is the people who participate in actually facilitating the event. All right. So every single person who works in the background to enter in the community games or weigh in on the community, basically people who do all the work, came together and we said, all right, let's put together a list of games. Okay. And this list of games is 101 games long. Okay. Now I told the podcast crew, I said, hey guys, we're going to do a list of 100 games. And I said, we'll divvy it up 20 or so a piece. And then I looked at it and I was like, well, this is the Backlog Beatdown 4. We're using the tag Back for Blood. We're coming at this thing newer, refreshed, better than ever. It would be really silly not to actually add Back for Blood to the list. So 100 games chosen by the podcast host and the crew that actually enters in all the data, make sure the spreadsheet stays working. Huge shout out to Kalai's husband, Jim. Jim, every year he makes our spreadsheets. Every year he fixes our spreadsheets. We have broken them several times. He's had to go in and fix them. And this year's spreadsheet is better than ever. Now, he's done a lot of extra work to make sure that things are easier for us to enter because, guys, it takes a long time. Like, if you guys drop 3, 4, 5, 6 games in an evening, and the next morning we got to go in there and go, okay, do all these count. What do they count for? What are the dates on them? There's various ways that we have to go about that. Sometimes they're in the Discord. Sometimes they're in the Loot Bros group. Sometimes they're in the Facebook group that we dedicate for the Backlog Beatdown. Sometimes they're emailed to us because not everybody participates on all the social media stuff. So it does take a few minutes to enter in everyone's stuff to make sure it's all right and it's on the spreadsheet correctly. And then we got to make sure you turn in a screenshot. We got to make sure that your timestamps add up because we want to play fair. So it eats into our individual game time. All right. That being said, Jim has gone the extra mile to make sure that the points all add in correctly and everything works nicely. So it is super huge shout out to Jim. So what are these bonuses? All right. So here's what we're doing for the Loot Bros podcast. We're always doing community events. We're always trying to do something that keeps us all involved. Now, over the years, you guys have heard me say, I like to do community events. I wanted to do community game nights, but timing and scheduling and everything's always an issue. So that's why I've come up with these contests. That's why we have a Loot Bros achievement and trophy leaderboards on the podcast each and every week, so that you guys that are actively participating and doing things can be involved. But yet we don't all have to sit down together and do it at the same time. That's why we have a Backlog Beatdown, a year-long event that brings us all together as a community to have conversation and to do something with our hobby that we all share. All right. That's why we have the Loot Bros Game Club. That way we can come together. Maybe we can all play a game at the same time. Maybe it's a modern game. Maybe it's an older game. Maybe it's just somewhere in between. But we don't actually have to be in the same place at the same time to all participate and have fun together. So my idea is to lean into those things even more. So this year we're giving out bonus points. All right. We're going to post what we call the list, the sacred list of 101 games for the Backlog Beatdown Back for Blood. You get bonus points for playing the games off of the list. So what does that mean? Well, it means for beating a game on the list, you get an additional +2 points. So how does that work? Well, let's say you play Resident Evil on PS4, the HD collection, or the HD remake of the first game. All right, that is an older game that came out before 2023. That's automatically +2 points. It is a game that's on the list because I put it on the list. That's another +2 points. Let's say you 100% or platinumed it. You get an additional +1 point for the 100% or platinum. And if you platinum or 100% a game off the list, you get an additional +5 points. That's right. +5 points. So we're going all in. So essentially, if you play games on the list, you're going to get mega points. All right. Now, what does that mean? That means you got to play the games that we like. That means you got to play the games that we chose. Some of those games are intentionally time sinks. Some of those games are just fan favorites of ours. Okay. Now, what does that do for the guys that maybe stayed on the bottom half of the scoreboard last year? Well, that gives them the opportunity to focus their efforts. Maybe they started off, and I'll use my good friend John Michael as an example. John Michael, we call him Game Squat. he started off the year playing, Assassin's Creed Valhalla, and then he had played some Cyberpunk, and he played all these huge games. And by the first half of the year, he was already so far down the list, there's no way he was even going to even compete with I'm Styling on You Bro, who's playing simulator after simulator after simulator, knocking out full franchises on Xbox. Okay? So, how do you compete with somebody like that? Well, you go to the list. Maybe pick you out a game that's worth an additional a couple points. Maybe you pick out a game that's going to get you that +2 because it's on the list, as well as the +2 because it's older. And then you get the +1 for the platinum. But you know what? Because Daryl picked that game out, that was on the list, you get an additional +5 because it's on the list. Now, these games that are on the list are automatically built into the spreadsheet. So as soon as we trigger that, hey, you played a game on the list, it auto-populates the points. And if you 100% platinum them, it gives you your points. So it's easy for us. We don't even have to go in and type out the fact that you played the game. Because by the way, when you're entering the data on the spreadsheet, you got to pick out who did it, what game it was, what system it was, did they get, how many points they got. I mean, it's a whole thing. Again, it takes a little while. So this year, using the list for all the bonus points is actually less work for us than it would be just to play a random game. Let's say you played Power Wash Simulator on Xbox on Game Pass. It would actually take me longer to enter in the fact that you played Power Wash Simulator than it would if you played Resident Evil HD Remake on PS4. Okay? Now, the list is supposed to be for fun. The list is supposed to be, man, these are games that we as the facilitators of the event that we enjoy. We picked out. These will be good conversation pieces as well. We also do the Game of the Month Club. So let's say because on this next episode, all right, that we are launching, we're going to announce the next game of the month. Let's just say, because at the last time of recording, Batman Arkham Knight is the winner. That, according to Patreon, Batman Arkham Knight had the most votes the last time we recorded. Okay, so Batman Arkham Knight is let's just say, hypothetically, it's the winner for the next Game of the Month Club. You go in there, you beat Batman Arkham Knight. Well, that's your +2 because it's older. Then you get a +1 because it's a Game of the Month Club. Let's say you 100% and platinum that game. Well, you get your 100% platinum for +1 point per normal Backlog Beatdown rules. But then you get an additional +1 for beating the game. Okay? So I hope that makes a lot of sense. We'll definitely dig into this, dive into it more on the podcast. I will post up the rules. I'll post up the bonus points. I'll make a graphic. We'll have the list. I'll have all that stuff laid out for you. There are a lot of potential points out there, guys. So we definitely want you to get the most bang for your buck. Okay, so just a quick recap. You get a +1 for beating a game. You get a +1 for beating a game that's older than 2023. Okay. You get a +1 for the platinum or 100%. If that game is on the list, you get a +2. And if that game is platinumed from being on the list, you get a +5 on top of it. So if you beat a game that's on the list, that's a potential 10-point game. It's pretty good. And same thing goes for the Game of the Month Club. You get your +1 for beating it, your +2 if it's older, or +1 for if it's older. You get a +1 for the platinum. And then if it's a Game of the Month, you get a +1 for beating it. And then you get a +1 for 100% or platinuming it. Okay, so not as many points for the Game of the Month Club. But again, another incentive to have everyone lean in. So essentially, if you just listen to Loot Bros podcast and you play along throughout the year, there are plenty of potential bonus points to keep you in the running, And this year also, something else we're going to do. Now, I'm not divulging the information at this time, but we will have some bonuses and some prizes that will go out for completely arbitrary things throughout the year. What does that mean, Daryl? What are you saying? What I'm saying is that maybe, just maybe, we have written out some additional rules and guidelines and things that we would like to see. So let's just say that myself, the commissioner, Zach, Kalai, and Jim, and Joe, when now that Joe's back, full time, let's say that we have a random thought. They're like, man, if someone does this during the first 6 months of the contest, we're going to throw a little reward their way. What's the reward? Don't know. What's the task? Not telling you. So what I'm just throwing out there is there might be some completely ridiculous and arbitrary tasks randomly sprinkled out throughout the year that if you participate in them, you may or may not find yourself rewarded for it. What does that mean? I don't know. It could be a bunch of points. Could be a monetary digital card to your storefront of your choice. We will see. But we will have those things and we will drop those little nuggets periodically on the podcast. So what do you got to do? You got to listen to the podcast. You got to play along with us. And you got to have a good time. Thank you guys so much for everyone who has participated in the Backlog Beatdown. This is the 4th year we're doing this. A great community event. Each and every year we sprinkle a few more people in there. Tell your friends, get your kids involved. That was one of the things, one of the big highlights from this past year. My kids participated. Red Beer Rick's son participated. And then right at the tail end of the year, Gareth's son participated as well. So get the kids involved. Have them playing games. And you never know, they might get a special little shout out on the show. Granted, our show is not necessarily catered towards kids. But, you can let them know. Oh, these guys right in between all of their wiener and fart jokes. They said you did a good job. Thank you guys so much. This is the Backlog Beatdown. Back for Blood. Very excited to have everybody. The contest, the event is live. Let's go. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to myself or the commissioner, John Tancredi. Don't bother everybody else. All right. Because all they're going to do is go to me or JT anyways. Okay. So leave Kalai alone. Leave Jim alone. Leave Joe and Zach alone. If you guys need anything, you reach out to me. You reach out to JT. And let's have a great year.
To survive.